Yo, Triple Eight Mega here, bad deck enthusiast, and also a resident branded enjoyer. So you know I'm gonna update you guys on everything branded related as it relates to Master Duel. Konami recently, for the first time ever, added a new secret pack, and it's all branded in Albaz stuff. 3 new cards for you to consider in your branded DESPIA deck. All of them are seeing play at least 1 copy. So I'm gonna show you guys the new cards, demonstrate them in action, so you can see what they do in my current deck list that I'm playing on the ladder at this moment. If you enjoy my content, or if you're just here to hang out, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps me out immensely. I'm super close to 150, which is incredible, and I would like to thank you guys. So now let's get to the new cards. So this is the new pack, and as you can see, it's all branded and Albaz related, with the new card cover card being Alba Lenatus, the Abyss Dragon. This is a one of. You don't really summon it that often unless you're up against a dragon deck. But you can send it to the graveyard with cards like Mirror Jade. And in the end phase, you can add a Polymerization or Fusion normal spell. So that could be branded Fusion. It could be Destiny Fusion, Fusion Destiny, whatever you want to call it. Or anything else, Shaddoll Fusion, you name it. This card is very splashable. And you have to be worried about it when you're playing a dragon deck. But other than that, it doesn't really do much. So I will not be summoning it in this video. But I do have 1 copy. And I do play it in the main deck. Also, we have branded Banishment. This card is like branded in red, but on steroids, but not on steroids at the same time. It does revive a Despia or level 8 fusion monster, and then fusion summon on the field with monsters on either side of the field. So it's easy to get into like your Dragostapelia or your Starving Venom this way. Also, you could like summon Dramaturge and do some plays, or Ad Libitum. It's really cool, or Tragedy. It's really cool because it gives you more ways to play on your opponent's turn, and that's just what you need. Also, we also have the last card, and this card is being cheesed all over the ladder, Branded Explosion, being used to lock your opponent out the game in various different ways. I'll show you guys the cards that you can use, as well as how to get out of the lock, but chances are you probably won't. But it is a good card. It is very gimmicky. I do not think it's like needed in the deck, but it's still a cool card nonetheless. There's also some other new cards in this pack that we could go through, but I don't think they're that important. Branded Loss is a funny battle trick, I guess. But target one monster who controls special supplement to deck. Yeah, I've never used that card. This one's also it's a branded and a Dogmatica cards. You can search it with Alibur or Ecclesia, but it doesn't really do that much. So, but the artwork is pretty cool, I guess. That's a reason. And this is another Dogmatica card. The artwork is pretty cool, but I'll go over that card in the Dogmatica review. And that's pretty much it. Albaz the Ashen is kind of booty. I don't think you do not play this card. It's funny though. I might play it, but you probably shouldn't, cause I play bad cards. But yeah, that's it for the new cards. Now I'm gonna show you guys a couple replays. One in which I lock my opponent out the game with Branded Explosion, and another one in which I use this card to super poly my opponent's field, and so you can see how the cards work. And let's get to it. So this is a replay of the branded Despia mirror match, and that's because branded Banishment really shines in the mirror match, because you know for a fact your opponent is going to have fusion monsters, light and dark monsters, which will open up the fusion materials for your extra deck. Now, you'll also notice we're playing a Mass Change 2, and that's to play around cards like Impermanent Effect Veiler, as well as put pressure on my opponent with Mask Hero Dark Law. So let's get to it. So we're going to start off with the Branded Loss. Regular plays here. Branded Fusion. We opened the Branded Banishment, so that means we don't need to use our Mirror Jade Banish to get branded in red. Because like this card is essentially kind of branded in red, so it means that you get to keep your Mirror Jade Banish more times than not, whereas before you would have to go way out of your way to banish something with Mirror Jade just to get branded in red as a follow-up. But this is pretty cool. We're going to add Alibur here. We're going to add Albion, and Branded Loss is still a pretty good card. I see people are cutting it, but I don't know. I'm really torn. Every time I try to build this deck, I end up taking cards out, putting cards in. Too many cards. So he's going to go for the Imperm here. And we have the Mass Change too, so we can pitch the Albion, which can still activate in the graveyard. dodge the imperm. Give him a bigger problem to worry about. So I'm also playing we're playing Mass Change 2 to dodge imperm, and in another deck we were playing like Saravis or something. But yeah, you really don't want to get impermed. Albion is really good at sending Albaz to the graveyard to turn on Branded in red if you open it, so that way your Aliber can play around imperm as well. So now he gets punished by Darklaw for adding to his hand, and we hit the poly. He's gonna go Branded Fusion, but because we have Darklaw, his materials are getting banished, which isn't too bad for Despia, but for another deck, it would be pretty detrimental. So he gets that Tragedy Search, he gets to do this, and we're sitting on Banishment. We're waiting for Mirror Jade because we know that he's going to go into Mirror Jade. And Banishment, I'm not sure the reaction between Banishment and Loss, but I do know that he doesn't activate his Mirror Jade here. So I'm not sure if he could or if he couldn't. I will look into that. But yeah, we go for the Banishment. We summon back the Tragedy because we're going to get a search from it. Immediately fused with his Mirror Jade. I don't know if he just didn't banish because he couldn't. Oh, okay. Mass Dark Law. Because cards cannot go to the graveyard, Mirror Jade is like a dead card. For a fact, you cannot banish with Mirror Jade while Dark Law is on the field. So that's what happened. So he couldn't even banish to stop the banishment. So this is really like a really cool combo here. We make Quiritis because if you trigger your Mirror Jade in the end phase to do the wipe the board, we'll get an Albaz from the deck or Aliber Search. So yeah, that's why we can make Quiritis here. And Mercurier add also to play around like any other graveyard effects. He's going to triple attack to challenge us now, but we don't really care because we have Dark Law. He's going to add to his hand, but we're going to Mercurier that. And you knew we had the Mercurier, bro. So yeah, what are you doing? He's going to scoop now. And that's pretty much how Branded Banishment works. You want to make sure you have a Despia in the graveyard if you want to make access to Proskinian or Quiritis or Masquerade. Or you want to have a fusion monster in the graveyard. Not really Albion because you kind of want him in the graveyard. But any fusion monster will probably get you into like Dragos Tapelia or Starving Venom or even Mud Dragon makes more sense to play now. Well, you can't summon Mud Dragon with it. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure that your graveyard is set up before you activate that card. The next card, and this card you may have seen it on the ladder already. It's Tormenting Everyone. Branded Expulsion. Tribute 1 fusion monster, then target 2 non-fusion monsters that are banished and or in the graveyard. Special summon both monsters, 1 on each field. If you tributed a monster that lists Fusion of Albaz, you can activate this card and special summon them both to your field in defense position instead. So a couple key things you got to remember is the way the card works is if you summon the first monster in attack mode, you have to give your opponent the second monster. So there's an instance where I was trying to summon Aluber and Shadow Mist at the same time to get both their effects, but because I put Aluber in attack mode, I had to give my opponent the Shadow Mist, and yeah, it didn't work out too well. So make sure you click defense mode if you want both the monsters. Also, pretty much whatever you send from Branded Fusion is like fair game to summon back from the graveyard. So there's a few monsters that you've probably been seeing on the ladder that's making you quit the game. And these are the cards that are most likely to be given to you, with the first one being Ido, the Supreme Magical Force. It just says you cannot summon monsters. That's the main thing you need to know. Your opponent might give this to you. Another common one is Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. It says you can't special summon monsters except Gimmick Puppets. Or XCs. Is it Gimmick Puppets or XCs? You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Gimmick Puppet monsters. I should know that. I like Gimmick Puppets. But yeah. This doesn't activate, so as soon as it summons, it just boom. You can't summon monsters except Gimmick Puppets. And I don't think you're playing Gimmick Puppets, so yeah, this locks you out the game as well. Ra's Disciple is another common one, and since it's a light monster, it's better if you like to go into Albion. And this doesn't let you special summon or tribute monsters. So yeah, it's really good on that end. You also can't link it away. So like these different monsters have their strengths and weaknesses. Christia is a monster you would probably want to summon on your side of the field. It doesn't allow anyone to special summon, but it's a big body, and when it's destroyed, it goes back to the top of your deck. It's also a fairy, so it plays pretty well with the Despias. Genzo, if you see your opponents on a trap deck, maybe, or if trap becomes like meta. Send Jinzo with Branded Fusion. Summon it back with Expulsion. That's pretty cool. You got some barrier statues, but they're pretty low in attack, so unless you have a way to protect them, I wouldn't really summon them, but they still lock your opponent out the game either way. Ibli, it locks your opponent into only link summons, so yeah, could come up. You don't know if your opponent, what they're playing, and it's best of one, so it's probably not that good. But in a tournament setting, I could see Ibli seeing some sort of play, as well as Dark Angel. Heroes are doing this thing now where they summon Dark Angel and they put it on your side of the field, and you can't activate any spells. And if you're playing branded Despia and you're going second and you can't activate any spells, you auto lose. So yeah, you have to be careful of that. And yeah, this is the cards to worry about. I'm going to show you guys a replay where I use Ra's Disciple to lock somebody out of the game, and then they scoop. So yeah, that's just a spoiler, but yeah, I'm going to show you guys that right now so you can see Branded Explosion in action. So this duel is against Who Cares, and that's because it doesn't really matter. If you're going to lock your opponent out the game, doesn't matter what they're playing. We're going first. We open Branded Fusion and Call by the Grave, so he doesn't really have a way to stop it. So we get access to Branded Loss. Branded Loss will then be played. Branded Fusion. So because I'm going Ra's Disciple, we're summoning Albion. You want to put the Ra's Disciple in the graveyard, and your opponent sees that. They should leave right there if they have no way to stop it. Then we go Albion and Loss. Loss will add. Albion will fuse. Gonna add an Albion Shrouded. Gonna banish the Aliber and Fall of Albaz to make Rebellion. Rebellion will then discard to special summon, or fusion summon, into Mara Jade. Albion Shrouded will send Albaz to then search. We ripped into Poly. Poly is good because it sends Albion to the graveyard. So that way we don't have to use our banish on that Albion, which would be like really sus. So yeah, we ripped into Poly, which has kind of saved us. Now we can just use this Albion to set Branded Expulsion, and our opponent has to play through that. He knows we have it. We still have a live Mara Jade banish as well. We're going to tribute the Dragos Stapelia, summon an Aliber, give him Ra's Disciple, get a search. We still have Call by the Grave. We still have a banish. He still can't special summon. So he's playing Pendulum, which probably sucks, because he can't special summon. What are you supposed to do? You could normal summon. You could, I don't know. Pendulum should have ways to destroy this card off the side of the field, but the most common ways to stop this lock is probably Forbidden Droplet. If you Forbidden Droplet the Ra's Disciple, then your opponent, they get rid of it, and then you can special summon. And you also get to negate a monster. Or if you have Ghost Spell or Call by the Grave, then you can potentially stop the explosion before it even happens. Or best bet, Ash Blossom the Branded Fusion, and then you don't have to worry about it. So those are the ways to counteract it. If you're not playing Ash Blossom or Forbidden Droplet, you're misplaying this season, because Branded is everywhere and so is Branded Explosion. So I'm going to show you guys my deck list that I'm playing on a ladder, and after that, let's get to it. So this is my current deck list, and as you can see, I'm not playing the Branded Explosion or the Rise Lock because I do think it's pretty gimmicky, and I'm more of like a person who wants to play the deck at its purest form. However, I do like tech cards, so we are playing Mass Change to play around Imperm on Aliber. Gets us into Dark Law. We also pulled a second Dark Law on a free pack, by the way, so yeah, Poggies. So we have one Branded Banishment because you can tutor it from the deck with Albion. You can search it with Aliber. You can reset it with Despian Tragedy. So you only really need one copy. I do like Retribution, adding back branded cards from the graveyard, as well as the once in a while you do get to activate the effect to negate a summon. It comes up. So with Super Poly and Banishment, that's 3 copies of Super Poly pretty much. And branded in red, there's potential 2 cards that you could like summon, add from the deck to stop your opponent on their turn, as well as floats with Ad Libitum and Dramaturge. Gives you some good play, and now Proskinian is pretty good now because with branded banishment, you summon back a dude. If they have a light and dark on their field, or if you have a dark and they have a light, then you just get to fusion summon into Proskinian. And if they have an extra deck monster, you get to summon it back. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Would I change anything? Probably not. But I would have to play the season to know exactly what's good and what's not. I will say that Branded Explosion will steal games from you, just for the simple fact that you may not have the right card at the right time. So we are playing the double call by, triple Forbidden Droplet, and triple Ash Blossom just to stop it as much as we can. But even then, sometimes they get a win off you, and it is what it is. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you guys a lot. Please hit the like and subscribe. And remember, if it works for me, it can work for you. Peace out.